And good morning and welcome to another Tuesday morning. And it's Tuesday morning, so you know what time it is. That's right, it's time for another episode of the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio 106.9 WBIS LP. You can catch us on Roku, GPAC 23, especially on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So I'm Earl Kitchings, your host. Joining me as always, Ronleen Kennedy. Good morning, Ronleen.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm looking to have some fun today. I thought we kind of change things up and not be so serious and have some fun with our topic today. So I want to know, what's your favorite game show, TV game show? What's your favorite TV game show?
Well, in today's time, I'm enjoying Pictionary. That came about when my cousin, we went over to his home one day and he started playing Pictionary. And it was such a fun time trying to figure out what he was drawing and things like that. And on one of those occasions, he was drawing Donald Trump, and I was the only one who guessed that. He found when he got to the hat, I knew who it was, the bad hair and the hat. The baseball cap.
Well, you know that particular game is like charades. I guess that's the version of charades that we have in this modern time on TV. My favorite TV show, or the one I look at most frequently, is Family Feud.
Steve Harvey.
And that's the adult edition of Steve of Family Feud, because Steve Harvey dropped some words at times, and I'm like, well, I don't know if the kids are watching, but no matter. It's after 7 o'clock, so that seems to be his forte. But I wanted to just talk about this particular thing of TV game shows in America, simply because they are so powerful in entertaining us, both during the daytime hours and in the early nighttime hours before we go into prime time. And for those who may not know it, if you ever ask, well, why don't we see TV game shows after 8 o'clock? Well, there's a good reason for that, because the TV show and the networks agreed that they would not show any TV game shows in prime time. And prime time is between 8 and 11 on television every night. So they came to an agreement that they wouldn't do it. But the history of TV game shows goes all the way back to 1930, the late 30s, and the first television game show at that time was called the Spelling Bee. And a lot of things started out on the radio and transcended into becoming something that you saw on TV. So in 1938, the Spelling Bee was both on radio and TV. And TV is, approaching its 100th anniversary. But the Spelling Bee was a game show. And then there was a radio show that was called Dr. IQ, which was a radio quiz. And that began in 1939. So those were the first game shows that were on TV and or radio for us. And when we think about what we see now, I'm sure people can't imagine doing a game show on their radios. What do you think?
You have to have been there. You have to have experienced that in order to really understand what that was like. It was very interesting. However, you learned a lot. You really did, because it allowed you to use your imagination and creativity.
It definitely did. And it's interesting that the game shows are game shows that cause you to have to think. You have to know some history, you have to know some information. And these games cause you to really, go into your mental state to find out if you really know some of these answers. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why the games are popular, simply because it challenges our minds, many of them, with questions. As you stated with Pictionary, you got to look at a picture, and if someone can't really draw, man, you'll never solve that problem. But with so many game shows, the questions are asked and the answers are available if you know them. The first commercially licensed television game show was known as Truth or Consequences, and it came on CBS back in the 40s. And over time, that became one of the more popular TV shows, Truth or Consequences. You either knew the truth or you suffered the consequences. And that's how that game show went. Played in the daytime. And it states that that game, as it probably has been for many, many years, was something to give housewives something to do while they were at home. Well, when we say housewives, we know that that's a code name for women who don't go to work. Okay. And I don't think you or myself had a mother in the house who did not go to work. So we didn't have any housewives in our communities when we were growing up. So you didn't get a chance to see the game shows. And it's ironic that the game shows would happen in the morning time, say maybe about 10 o'clock. So you would get about 2 hours of game shows. Then you would get the noonday news, and right at 12:30 for the next 3 hours, they would have a serious airing of what they call soap operas. Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day when we talk about soap operas. But the Truth or Consequences started things out, and they labeled that particular game like a panel show where you had 3 or 4 people who had to answer questions or try to figure things out. Other shows that came on during that time, What's My Line? And that was a show to determine what your occupation was. What's my line? What's my line of work? I've Got a Secret, and To Tell the Truth. And To Tell the Truth was always interesting because they would have 3 people and they would read about something about the person, and the person would say their name, and they would basically try to convince the panel to believe who they were, because the panel had never seen some of the folks, and a lot of them come from everyday ordinary life, and they didn't know these people. They didn't have any pictures. There weren't cell phones and computers to give you images of these people. So when they came on the show to tell the truth, they would basically try to convince you. So from the 40s to the 60s, during daytime hours, primetime daytime hours, these game shows were being done, and they just kept evolving. They kept evolving. A new show, new idea, new way to play a game, just kept evolving. And I've listed the top 10 all-time game shows. There were 25 that I ran across, but I pulled the top 10. And then when I thought about some of the top 25, I thought about some of the theme songs or the music from some of the shows. And without getting this music stuck in my head for the rest of the day, I think one of the favorite game show tunes or show tunes was The Dating Game.
Agreed.
And
agreed.
Right. And I thought about that when I was listening, thinking about the song, about the scene in a movie that Eddie Murphy was in with Beverly Hills Cops, and he was trying to break in this warehouse. And as he was doing it, he started doing the dating game song. So that was that was kind of a game song, game show song that could get stuck in your head because you could just think about that. Some others you don't think about, but that, because of the beat, could get stuck in your head. But anyway, these shows had a life of their own. They came about shows like the Match Game, Hollywood Squares, Let's Make a Deal. I think Let's Make a Deal was probably, of all the game shows, the most fun, because now you had a game show where the contestants could actually participate and win. Mm. And do you remember the name of the guy who used to host Let's Make a Deal?
No, I don't.
Oh, wow. We're going to stump you already. His name was Monty Hall.
Monty Hall, okay.
Monty Hall was the host of Let's Make a Deal. And it gave you an opportunity to either get spoofed, or you could win some great prizes, or you could win some cash. And the unique thing about, of course, Let's Make a Deal, when he would come to you, he would say, I'll give you $50 if you got this in your purse or this in your pocket. And people would actually come with all this stuff in their pockets so they could win that cash money. And from winning that, they went on to play Let's Make a Deal game. And again, you know, you have door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, and you're trying to win these prizes. And that's what it was all about. So when you were watching game shows when you were growing up, did any one of them make you wish you could ever get on there and play?
The Price is Right.
Oh, Price is Right. Okay, well, go ahead and say what they say on The Price is Right when they call your name. What do they tell you to do?
Ronleen Kennedy, come on down.
Come on down. You're the next participant in today's Price is Right.
Right.
And now your job is to guess a price of an item. Against 4 other people or 3 other people. You got to guess within a parameter of the price. And if you're over, you lose. And you don't want to be over, because you're definitely not going to get selected. But you're trying to manage. Somebody gives an amount, and you're trying to figure out, should you go above that amount or below that amount? And when somebody thinks you are way out of line, they just say, I bid $1. Because they know if you way over, $1 is going to win. You know, you could be $1 over and you won't win. And they you know, $499 away, but they win because they're closer because you went over. So
yes.
Now, do you remember the name of the host of The Price is Right?
Bob Barker.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, that lets you know Ronleen was really watching that game. She was truly watching The Price is Right. And, of course, between Let's Make a Deal and The Price is Right, you had these models who would help, you know, not demonstrate, but show you the prizes, you know, in their eloquent way. You know, these hand models just, you know, they don't do too much, but, you know, like wave their hands and show you the prize, like, here you are, and make you excited about winning. But the Price is Right was really, really competitive, because once you became a participant, of course, you got on, and then you had to play another game. And they had many different games for you to play, guessing the price of something, trying to figure out what's going to be what with this or that item. It was interesting how many different games they actually created with The Price is Right. Unlike the Let's Make a Deal show, they didn't have as many games. They just always had you guessing dollar amounts. But with The Price is Right, you know, you had all kinds of little games. What was your favorite game on The Price is Right?
Oh, that was the which one was that? Where you had to the one where you had to guess the next number.
Oh, guess the next number.
Okay. Next number of the prize.
Okay, next number of the prize. So they would give you have 5 items, and you guess the price of that item, and they move on to the next one. Is that the one you're talking about? What about the one where they gave you 2 halves of a car? They would give you 1 half, and you have to try to guess the other half in order to win a car. You know, they would give you 3 numbers. Here's the first half of the car. You guess the other half. And if you guessed it exactly correct, you won that car. And So the challenges that they had with these games were just unbelievable. And again, we're talking about prizes. And when then in the dating game, there was not so much the prizes per se, but you won the person as the prize to go on a date with that person. And it was almost like matchmaking. They're trying to, connect you with someone to see if y'all might connect and be okay together. And you would have to come back and report what happened on the date and how it went and all of these kind of things. And you could really make it sound good, or you'd be like, man, that was the worst thing. We went to this place and the food was terrible, and this happened and the car wouldn't start and they spilled some wine on my suit. And so you get all these scenarios about what's going on. And then of course it was always interesting to see the couples on the newlywed game.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering how many marriages broke up after that game.
I hope not many. I hope not many.
I hope not either, because they would ask you a question about your significant other or your spouse, and if you guessed the wrong answer, they would look at you, because you had to hold up a card with your answer, right? You had to hold up the card to show everybody what the answer was. Man, if you got that answer wrong, it's almost like you don't know much about her or you don't know much about him because you didn't answer that correctly. And they would look at each other like, how do you don't know that? And that used to be entertaining. And watching the guy who was the host of that show, he made it entertaining because he would kind of yeast them on with the wrong answers to make it seem like they really messed up.
Yeah.
So, those are the games that came to mind. And but then, Ronleen, when we really talk about game shows that provided you with significant amounts of money, those are the game shows that many people want to play. I mean, you could win a prize. You could win a car on The Price is Right. You could win some money and some trips on Let's Make a Deal. You could win some things, but nothing matches the money that you can make from one, well, really three particular shows, but two in particular: Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
And Jeopardy, followed by The Wheel of Fortune.
Yes.
Right?
You're absolutely right about that.
Those games allowed you to win significant amounts of money. And when I say significant, I'm going to give you a rundown about the kind of money some people won playing these game shows. And, you might often think, well, how do they come up with all these prizes, or who gives away all these prizes, or how does that work? Do you know how that works, Marlene?
Yes, I did research that because,
Okay. Well, tell us about it.
yes, one of my family members played one of the games or what have you, and was in for a shock because taxes had to be paid on that.
That is
And,
correct.
and then not only that, sometimes you weren't able to use um, whatever the prize was until a designated time. So
Mm-hmm.
it'd be based on the manufacturer who gave the gift, or it would be based on um, however those rules were set up based on who actually was sponsoring the gift. So it could have been like a sponsor for the
Right.
gift. And, it was just really interesting, especially with the trips. You only could take the trip at a certain time.
Oh,
So
really?
yes, you could take the trip at a certain time, so you couldn't just go when you wanted to go. So you had
Okay. They don't tell you
concessions
that.
for that. No, they don't tell you
They
that.
don't tell you that. Okay, so I get the trips. I'm glad you shared that with us, because I get the trips. They send you on those trips during the off season.
Yes. making sure the bookings, whatever that off season is when people aren't really traveling or whatever. So that's
Right.
you travel. If
Right, right. Yeah, you
yeah.
want to go to the islands no, you're not going in the prime time. You're going in the time when there's hardly nobody there.
Yes, and that goes back to what you were just really alluding to when it was like your I always call you the follow the money guy.
Hmm.
So it's following that money, making sure those resorts are being used during that off peak time. So if your time doesn't line up with the off peak time, then I guess you won't be going on the trip. Not only that, transportation for the trip.
Mm.
You have to be listening to what they are saying when they're announcing what you have won, or you have to be responsible for your transportation in most cases,
To
and
get
hopefully
to
and
where the
get to
ship
your
is leaving from.
yes, to get to wherever your destination is. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Well, in this prize scenario, the other part is that the manufacturers of these prizes and or services get what they call promotional consideration.
Mm.
So if I have a product and rather than me buying the advertising uh, for that particular show through my local network or TV station, me having or giving away my particular product on that show at no cost to me because I'm getting all this exposure from millions of people seeing my product on that show. Because they could charge you and say, well, we'll be more than happy to run your commercial. It's going to cost you this, or you could just give us the prize and you won't have to pay anything. So I think a lot of times they opt to give the prize away because it is a promotional consideration, and they say the name of the product or the name of the service or whether who's sponsoring the trip or whatever, and that's how those advertisers, the people who provide the prizes, that's how they can provide the prizes. Now, the money part is somewhat different because that's actually generated through the sale of advertising. Or if a company wants to pay to have their product on that show, or however the show and the business want to work that out. So they do that part, which is a good trade-off. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's a trade-off. You give me this and I give you that. And the odds are always to favor probably the TV show and the company that's giving away the prizes because you're depending on people to come up with the correct responses and answers. And when they don't, the money stays where it is, or the car stays where it is, or the trip stays where it is, and they come away with minimal. But you talked about the taxes on these shows. How much is the tax, Ronleen?
9 times out of 10, you're gonna be charged a luxury tax. So
And
that
how
is
much is that? I mean, if I won $20,000, how much do I owe Uncle Sam?
Well, with $20,000, you'll probably be okay within the 28%. But anything higher, like $75,000, then you go into the higher percentage of what they call a gift tax or the luxury tax.
I see. I see. So it just depends on how much you win.
Mhm.
And when I see them winning the money, as they always say, well, Uncle Sam basically is going to get a third of whatever you win in cash, or whatever and then like you said, if you want a car, you get the car, but you got to pay the taxes on the car, right?
Correct.
And if you didn't win any money on the game show, but you won that car, you got to come out your pocket to pay the tax on that car.
Correct.
I wonder how long they give you to sell that car if you don't want it, if you don't want that car.
I don't know.
You know,
I do know. I did hear, several things that was reported in the past where things like arrangements were made that they allowed you to do things like that, but the time frame, I don't know, but I'm sure it was rather quickly.
I would hope so because if I can't afford to pay the taxes on the car, it's my car. I want to sell it. you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I get the cash, and then you take your tax out of my cash, and I keep what's left. But if I don't have the money to pay the tax, I mean, and you're talking about, I are we saying you got to pay the tax right away, or can you defer it and spread it out, or what? I mean, Uncle Sam don't play with his tax money. He don't say, "Oh no, I'm gonna give you, 5 months to pay me my money." Oh no, I need my money now. Or else we're gonna come pick up your car.
No, you don't get to take that car home.
You don't.
No, you have to make arrangements before that car is ever removed. So whatever it is that you need to do, it needs to happen before that car is removed. And you only get a certain amount of time, and it's not a lot of time. I don't know how much time, but it's not a lot of time.
So you go to California and you're on one of the game shows. You win a car, and you got to get the car back to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna drive it back to Florida. No problem.
You
But do I have to pay that tax before I drive it away?
can't drive that car anywhere until all matters pertaining to that car is done, legal and all.
I
So you
bet you.
have.
I bet you. There's a clause that says, okay, so here's the deal: you can take the car, or we'll give you X amount of dollars.
Well, if that is the case, all right, if you don't have it, don't play around with it. Take what you can.
Because if I can't drive this car away because you holding it up because I owe you some money, it's like,
Mhm.
I won the car, yes, but you owe this. So the glamour of the show, that's the first thing. The glamour of the show, to be on TV, you're on this show, you're just, doing so well. You want a trip, you want a car, you want some cash. Now it's time to settle up. The show
That's
goes off.
fine. Yeah, that's the
Yeah, the,
bottom line.
yeah, the show goes off the air, and it's time to settle up. Sir, ma'am, if you would just go over to that room, we can settle up your bill. My bill? What bill? Well, you owe some taxes, you owe some of this. I got to pay something. Yes, you do.
Yes. And the good thing about that now, I don't know what it was like during the 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, but the thing about it now, you do know the terms and conditions up front. They have to tell you the terms and conditions up front. So you get a chance to pass before you're ever on the air, you know, to be
Oh,
able to
okay.
somebody else to be the next contestant in your place or what have you. So, it saves you some embarrassment if that's what you want to go with that. But yes, you do have
Okay.
to settle
Okay. Well, as
around that.
long as you know the rules up front, and they tell you the rules up front, so that you don't make a gaffe or something like that on the show and blurt out something you shouldn't, or get upset and say you're not going to take it. No, because everybody on these shows looks so happy all the time. Everybody's so happy, you know. And I know in some of these studios they have signs that let you know when you're on the air, or to laugh, or make gestures. When Steve Harvey comes out, man, everybody stands up and just applauds him, and like they so glad to see Steve. Man, I couldn't wait to see you, Steve. Boy, oh boy. And so everybody's always happy.
Mhm.
And then there comes the disappointment if you aren't the winner. You still got to look happy.
Yes, after losing, you still have to look
I
happy.
still have to look happy. I didn't win a dime, but I still got to look
And
happy.
incidentally, I was looking at the Today Show. Well, whatever one that Gail King is on, I think it's CBS Morning.
CBS Morning. Yeah.
Yes. And so Gail King participated on the Family Feud with Steve Harvey. So that was interesting to hear her talk about it.
Okay. Well, once upon a time, the game shows had the amount of money they would give away limited to no more than $25,000. And in those game shows where the stakes are pretty high, the, the game shows take out what they call a prize indemnity insurance, which allows them to avoid paying the cost of a rare, expensive prize out of pocket. And I think that's how they manage that money aspect too is they have some type of indemnity insurance to prevent some things from happening. But over the course of time, there have been many people who have won the games from the low end, $10,000, less than 10,000. Now on the Wheel of Fortune, if you don't win anything during the course of the game, they still will give you $1,000.
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
know, so we'll send you away with $1,000. Look happy now. Look happy, because guess what? That thousand means you only gonna take home about 700.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because I'm see, and the thing is, so is there like an IRS guy at these TV shows waiting over here on the side? So as soon as you finish winning, they're like, okay, this is what you owe us.
I mean that there is some paperwork involved for
Mm,
everything before you leave. But this is a
okay,
good time for the break.
okay. This is the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM. Check us out every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock here on Awesome Radio. You can also check us out on YouTube, Facebook Live, GPAC 23, and Roku TV. If you happen to miss us, you can catch the taping. But today we're talking about American game shows, and if you're wondering why Ronline and I are laughing so much today, because we're having some fun. We're looking happy for you. We didn't win any money, but we're looking happy.
We have applause signs that tell us what to do.
Exactly. We have the signs here to tell us to smile and look happy. So we're
Yes.
looking happy and acting like, we're having a lot of fun today. Didn't win a dime, but we're happy. I'm happy. So, but the contestants on some game shows who win nothing, I know once upon a time they used to, might have been Family Feud, or it might have been Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune, but you didn't win anything today, but we're gonna let you go home with the Family Feud game. Man,
Oh yes, yes, yes,
you gonna
yes.
send me home with the game? Look happy when I tell you this now. Do not look like you're disappointed that I'm giving you a game. You can go home and practice. You can go home and practice. And the thing about Family Feud is, when those points are lined up for one team or one family, and they get to that last category where the points have tripled, and that team that has 0 points end up winning the game, it's like, man, we were right there ready to win, so we could try to win that 20,000, and they just took our steam. So hey, hope you. And Steve likes to tell people, man, y'all look good on TV. Look happy, y'all look good on TV. Man, I'm sorry y'all lost. Man, y'all all yeah, Steve. Okay, man.
Yes, always gonna be someone to lose. You're
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. In the game, there's gonna always be a winner and a loser, but that's how it goes. And when I start thinking about the shows, I start thinking about who have been the host on these shows, when the shows started, and looking at how some things have changed over time. So I'm going to go down the list from the top 10, from number 10 all the way down to number 1. I'm going to give you the name of the show, the year it first premiered, and the host then, and then the current host. And at any point in time, Ronline, you want to jump in to say something or add something, please just jump in. But look happy when you do it now. Look happy. And we're going to take care of this. So at number 10 was the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And it premiered in 1999 with Regis Philbin. So you have an opportunity to win $1 million if you can keep your streak going. You answer a question, you get some money. You answer some question. If you want to double it, you can do that, but you keep going. And, hopefully you can get there. which made me think about another game show that used to come on, uh, where you had to answer a question, and if you didn't know the answer, you could call somebody at home or your lifeline, and you could call somebody and you try to answer the question because your money was on the line. If they didn't know the answer, you had to, you had to go to somebody else, man. But after you use up your lifelines, you get to that real money, you have nobody else to call, and you can't answer the question. You might be at, a couple of $100,000 trying to get to $1 million, and you lose all of that because you can't answer the questions.
Yes.
So, um, so
And
that
that
was a good show.
yeah, and that reminds me of the little music thing that goes with some of the well, one of those shows. I don't remember which one it was, but wah, I think might have been Price is Right. Wah 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 wah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's either Price is Right or Let's Make a Deal. One of those.
Yeah,
And that
that's
was
do
always
not.
interesting.
Yes, so to
That was
lose.
always interesting.
Hmm.
So the next game show was started in 1975. The Wheel of Fortune started in 1975. Started with a guy by the name of Chuck Woolery. Now, Chuck Woolery also used to be on another game show. Uh, why does the dating game come to mind? But the name we all know for the Wheel of Fortune is Pat Sajak. That's the
Yes,
name we know.
yes,
So Chuck Woolery, we've heard of him, don't really know about him, but because it was so long ago. But Pat Sajak is almost like, was there somebody before Pat Sajak? Yeah, but who was it? I don't know.
yes, and of course, everybody looks forward to Vanna White. They're looking to see what she's going to wear,
Exactly.
what
And
fashion.
again, and again, that's all Vanna White does. Okay? That's all Vanna does is walk out, she just turns letters.
Yes,
That's all
yes,
she does. She just
yes,
turns letters.
yes.
Now, if someone said, "Well, what's your job?" Well, I'm a professional letter turner. What the heck is that? Because there's only one job like that.
Yes, yes.
There's only one job like that, and she has that job.
Or now, in modern day, she points at the letter and it lights up.
Well, hey, so she runs by and touches, and it flips her. Okay, but Wheel of Fortune 75. Then Let's Make a Deal came on the scene in 1963. Started with Monty Hall, now hosted by Wayne Brady. Wayne Brady. Then the Hollywood Squares came on in 1966. That was hosted by Peter Marshall, and that's where you had uh, entertainers in this big box to make it look like tic-tac-toe. That's basically what you were trying to do, tic-tac-toe, and they would crack jokes and answer questions right or wrong, and they would have a good time with that.
I love that show.
You love that?
Yeah, Paul Lynn and Nipsey Russell.
Russell, okay. Cracking jokes.
Cracking jokes.
Nipsey Russell was the wordsmith with the way he could just pull rhymes and things together. Yeah,
Right.
he was entertaining. Hollywood Squares. 1961, the show Password came on with Alan Ludden. Alan Ludden. And that was a good show because you had to guess a word based on what your partner saw the word and would try to give you clues and tips on what the word is. They couldn't say something directly related to the word, so they would try to give you these tips and get you to say the correct word. Now, Alan Ludden is not as famous as his wife, Ronleen. Would you happen to know who his wife was or is?
No.
Betty White.
Betty White? Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Betty White was his wife. On number 5, the Pyramid Game, 1973, hosted by none other than American Bandstand's own Dick Clark.
Okay, I
Dick
remember
Clark
the
started hosting.
pyramid. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he started hosting Pyramid, and now Michael Strahan hosts the Pyramid Game.
Oh wow, I need to start watching that.
You're a Michael Strahan fan. Okay. At number 4 is the match game started in 1962. The first host was Gene Rayburn, and today's host is Alec Baldwin. 1976, number 3 all time on the list, Family Feud. 1976 started with Richard Dawson, now hosted by Steve Harvey. Number 2 on the list was your favorite show, uh,
The
The
price.
Price is Right. That started around 64. Bob Barker was the first host, the host that we always knew. Everybody loved Bob Barker. The young ladies and the senior ladies, they loved Bob. He just had a flair, had that long, skinny microphone, and he just had a flair. And now Drew Carey,
Yeah,
Drew Carey hosts. I'm
I,
sorry.
I wonder with Bob Barker how many kisses if they did the Guinness World Records of how many kisses. I wonder would he be the winner.
I don't know. That would be a good Guinness Book of Records to look up, because Richard Dawson used to get kisses too when he was on Family Feud.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm.
and see, if you got a family of 5, and you've got 3 women, that's 3 right there. He got them both ways. So The Price is Right is the number 2 show on the top 10, and then at number one, there is no game show like this show. Started in 1964, Jeopardy.
Jeopardy.
Started with Art Fleming, but we all know Alec Trebek as the man for Jeopardy.
Yes. Now let me tell you what I think may have put Jeopardy on the map for people that were never looking at Jeopardy before. And that is Rosie Perez when she did the movie
Oh
White.
yeah.
And when she was answering those questions, just rolling them off her tongue, it's like, okay. And then I read about Jeopardy. It was like it was an opportunity to show Americans intelligence. That's the way it was stated. Americans' intelligence. Because you had to know. You either knew it or you didn't.
Either you knew it or you didn't. And because of all the categories, and you always had to give an answer in question form. That's
Yeah.
the other thing. If you didn't give it in question form, you got the buzzer. And nope, that's not the answer.
Yes.
So it's always got to be in question form. And I think that's what makes it unique. But yes, Rosie Perez in the movie White Men Can't Jump, learning to answer all these questions for all these categories. And when she got on, man, she had that buzzer and she was just clicking, bam, 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 bam. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to segue into this. Jeopardy. They've had one guy over the course of 75 episodes, Ronleen, who won $2.5 million. His total winnings on Jeopardy was $4.5 million.
Wow.
Ken Jennings won $4.5 million plus on Jeopardy, and over the course of 75 airings, he won 2.5. I mean, he never lost. That's the thing. You never lose, because at the end, you have the money. They don't tell you how much you have, and you have to wager some of your money in order to win the final Jeopardy question answer. And depending on what you wager, so for him to keep winning like that, I mean, 75 shows,
Yes. And then
$2.5 million.
yes, and I know his heart was broken when the lady won. She's the one who took who ended his winning streak. Is that correct?
I believe so. I didn't look at that part of it, but
Mhm.
I'm just like, Okay, so you broke my winning streak, but I got 2.5.
Yes.
Let me go see this guy over here in this office and give him his money. God dog it. Okay, sir, here's your piece. And I still walk away with $1 million+.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the Ken Jennings 2.5 million, $22,700. Then the next largest amount on a different game show was Kevin Olmsted, who won 2.1 million on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And he hit the jackpot a couple of times, I think, and won that money. And then Adam Rose won 1 point, let me see, total $1 million in a spectacular special episode on The Price is Right. Won $1 million on The Price is Right. So that's the amounts that those games have. But between Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Jeopardy, you have an opportunity to really win some significant amounts of money. I think Who Wants to Be a Millionaire can get you there faster than Jeopardy because you can win that all at one time, depending on if you can answer the questions. And Ronline, I went on to look up, the companies that produce these shows, and it's been interesting because there was a duo, a TV production duo called Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. And from 1946 until into the 2000s, they were the longtime producers of shows like Beat the Clock, I've Got a Secret, Password, The Price is Right, Two for the Money, What's My Line, Family Feud, Match Game. They produced all these shows. Merv Griffin Enterprises is the producer of Jeopardy. Monty Hall and Stephen Hatos did Let's Make a Deal, and Bob Stewart produced The Pyramid Show. But all of these shows had these production companies, these producers who produced these shows, and their longevity has stood the test of time since the 30s to what we have now because they continue to entertain us in the daytime and in the early part of the night.
You're absolutely right. So today, while I was getting ready for the show, I was watching Pictionary, which is hosted by Jerry O'Donnell. And I was surprised when I saw Jaleel White,
Mm,
who we know as Urkel.
mm.
And to see those competitions go forth, and as I mentioned about the CBS Morning, learning about Gail King this morning participating on the Family Feud. So here's the thing that I liked about the shows: it got a chance to connect me with um, Nipsey Russell, Paul Lynn, Steve Harvey, um, and there are others that came along. The Dancing with the Stars, I got a chance to see these actors in roles other than acting, so it gave me a connection.
Well, that's what it's all about to connect. So, how much money can you win on Pictionary?
You win some trips. I don't know. I haven't paid attention to the money to actually know that,
Okay.
but I do know the today was trips. They did win some money. You go away with something. I like shows like that. You just don't go away with just a game.
Right. Not just the game, eh? Well, on Family Feud, you don't even get the game anymore. They even used to give you like a phone or something. They don't give you anything anymore. You lose, you're done. See you. Glad to have you. Y'all look good on TV. Okay.
Enjoy the airtime.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. So it's entertaining. He makes it entertaining. And I think that's the good part about having some of these hosts. So that's going to be our show for today here on the Kitchings Table, American Game Shows. And we're still happy.
Yes. Win or lose.
Win or lose, you gotta be happy. So next Tuesday, join us for another episode and edition of the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM. Join me, Earl Kitchings, and my co-host, Ronleen Kennedy, for something to just entertain you, inform you, challenge you, whatever the case might be, because that's what we do here at the Kitchings Table. So until next Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, I'm Earl Kitchings. She's
Ronleen Kennedy. Come on down.
There you go. Until next week, have a great week. And as always, do something good for somebody else. Take care, everybody.